Welcome, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining today. I'm Jamie. I am with Metro Council. Metro Council is a collaboration of all the community mental health centers in the Kansas City Metro. So, 7 of us, along with Mental Health America at the Heartland and Center for Behavioral Medicine. And we provide trainings and education and really collaboration between all of us. So thank you all so much for being here today. A couple of things to note. So as you see, we are using Zoom webinar. And so with that, you'll be able to see the presenter, the lovely Andrea Dalton, and then myself, but you will not see yourselves. And you'll be able to communicate through the chat box or through Q&A. And then at the end of our time together, I will be putting the link for the certificate of attendance in the chat. So that way, if you would like to get a certificate of attendance, you are welcome to at the end of our training today. So a couple of announcements. So please save the date. Save the date, it's so exciting. Our Mental Health Kansas City Conference will be May 23rd and 24th, 2024. We have a new location at Johnson County Community College. And so please save the date. It'll be 9 a.m. to 4:30 on May 23rd and 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. on May 24th. So Thursday, Friday, come join us. We will be, so while everything has gone up in price, our conference has not. So it is still $50, and that includes a day and a half of incredible keynotes and breakout sessions and snacks and lunch and certificate of attendance with contact hours. So tons of great opportunities. We have had so many incredible presentation proposals for breakout sessions. So thank you to all of you that submitted those proposals. We are currently looking through them, and we will have, I know we will have an incredible conference this year. So save the date. It'll be amazing right before Memorial Day weekend. So the other thing that we do is we host free webinars. Obviously, you know that you're here. And so second and the fourth Thursday from 12 to 1. And with that, I want to introduce Andrea. So Andrea's, oh, hold on. Wanting me to stop recording. Nope, not going to stop recording. Hold on. Okay, there we go. We're continuing to record. So I'm going to introduce Andrea. So Andrea Dalton, after graduating from the UMKC Conservatory with a Master's of Arts degree in music therapy, Andrea worked for nearly 12 years as a board-certified music therapist, primarily in inpatient mental health units, serving some of the most vulnerable adults and children in the Kansas City area. She took on the unique opportunity as a trauma-informed care consultant in 2016, building on her undying fascination with the way the brain works, a critical appreciation for research, her creative spirit, and a strong commitment to make the world a better place for all people. Andrea currently works at University Health in the Center for Trauma-Informed Innovation, developing trauma-informed, culturally responsive programs, practices, and policies in partnership with schools, healthcare providers, social service agencies, and organizations in the business sector across the country. She continued to serve the music therapy community as a faculty clinical supervisor for Roman Music Therapy Services in Wakefield, Massachusetts, and recently completed her term as vice president of the board of directors for the American Music Therapy Association. So I always have to say this because even though Andrea is part of our incredible group at Metro Council, I always do have to say that little disclaimer. So the views and opinions presented are those of the speaker and do not necessarily represent the opinions of Metro Council. So with that, Andrea, take it away.
Thanks, Jamie. Yes, I will try not to say anything too inflammatory today. All right, so I'm going to be talking about music. We're going to start with some music, and you know, fortunately, this is webinar. You can't be heard except by anybody who's around you. So I invite you, if you are in a space where you can repeat after me, you can do the rhythm that I'm gonna model, and also repeat the vocalization if you're in a space where you can do that and feel comfortable doing that. Otherwise, you can just like listen and hopefully enjoy it a little bit. So here we go. Come on, everybody, give your hands a clap. Come on, everybody, give your hands a clap. Come on, everybody, give your foot a tap. Come on, everybody, give your foot a tap. Come on, everybody, give your arms a pat. Come on, everybody, give your arms a pat. Come on, everybody, let your fingers snap. Come on, everybody, let your fingers snap. Dum diddy dum diddy dum dee day. Repeat. Dum diddy dum diddy dum dee day. Dum diddy dum diddy dum dee day. Dum diddy dum diddy dum dee day. So come on everybody, let's play today. Repeat. Come on everybody, let's play today. Come and let the music let your day okay. Come on, let the music make your day okay. Come on everybody, let's play today. Come on everybody, let's play today. Come and let the music make your day okay. Come and let the music make your day okay. Dum diddy dum diddy dum dee day. Repeat. Dum diddy dum diddy dum dee day. Dum diddy dum diddy dum dee day. Dum diddy dum diddy dum dee day. All right, fantastic. Well, I hope you sang along, and if you didn't, I hope you enjoyed it. I was going to try to figure out how to change my audio setting back to not original sound, but if it sounds okay, it's not too echoey, is it?
It sounds great on my
Okay.
end.
Then I won't worry about it because I don't know where I lost it when I shared my screen. Well, thank you all so much for joining me today. I see a few familiar names, many familiar names actually on the list of participants. So hello. And for those that I haven't met yet, it's great to be in touch with you today. You are always welcome to reach out to me at my email if you have more questions. Just as we're going along, I'll try to leave a little time at the end to address some questions from the chat. But I love to talk about music and the power of music for our own well-being. It's something that I grew up really believing. That's why I ended up in the field of music therapy in the first place. I can talk about it for way longer than like 45 minutes. So this is like skimming the surface. And I hope that you'll be able to take something away that's, practical, that you can maybe start doing yourself. Maybe it's going to be a new way of thinking about how music can be used in your own life. But then I hope you share it with other people too. Music is meant to be shared. Music is like fundamental to our connection as human beings. Like almost every culture in the world, from very, 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 very long time ago until right now, uses music together, creates music together. It's been really true throughout history, throughout like each individual's lifespan. I think music is something that we are actually born like keying into. And those vibrations of music are true, activators of our nervous system in really powerful ways. So even if you or someone you love has a hearing impairment, music can still be very beneficial and very powerful for people. You don't need your ears only to perceive music, which is pretty amazing. And our brains find ways to bring that information into our awareness. So whether you feel like you're a good musician or a good singer, you don't have to be good. You don't have to be great. You don't have to be, I don't know, Taylor Swift, or maybe you don't like Taylor Swift. You don't have to be Renee Fleming or someone, she's an opera singer, if you don't know. Someone who has gone to school for music or studied it for a long time. Music is something that is accessible to us all the time. And probably many of you, maybe all of you on this call, know that from your personal experience. We experience music in lots of ways too, not just listening, but also moving to it, humming along, creating our own rhythms, our own complement to the music that we hear, that we are exposed to. So what's really interesting, and I'll touch on this just a little bit today, is that our brains and our nervous systems are really hardwired to distinguish music from other noise. And we respond to rhythm and repetition. We respond to tones. We respond to tunes, harmonies. There's so much going on, and it doesn't seem to be just purely coincidental. Like, our brains are really aligned to music. And so today I'm going to just talk briefly about some of those things that are going on in our brains and our bodies as we are exposed to music, and talk just a little bit about some different elements of music to consider. And then also want to think about, not only does music have positive benefits, which I think a lot of us understand, from our own experience, but there are potentially negative impacts of music too. So I want to touch on that just a little bit, some, caveats to using music for your well-being. And then we'll spend hopefully the last half talking about some real practical applications for intentional musicking, which I love as a word. And it should be a word. If it's not in your dictionary, it will be soon, because I think there's no other word that better captures all of the ways that we use, that we create, that we are engaged with music. So why do we music? Again, using music as a verb. The short answer is we really don't know. There's been lots and lots of research on music. Obviously, I think, again, our personal experience shows that it brings a lot of enjoyment, relaxation. It can be very stimulating. It can allow for group connection. Many of you may have performed in ensembles throughout your life, high school or college choirs, or community-based groups too. Choirs or orchestras, band, all of those kinds of things. Like, there's that community. I know for me, I played in orchestra and band through college, and I'm still friends with those people. Like, that was a while ago, like 20 years ago or more. And those relationships that we form through the bonds of music really are so powerful. I think the other things that we kind of know, either intuitively or have seen, is that music allows for communication. It's an outlet for our creativity. We are innately creative as humans, and there are just tons of benefits associated with music. But the questions that often come up are, when especially researchers start to dig into the biology and the neurology around music. Why do we do it? Why do we like it? What purpose does it serve? Does it serve a purpose at all? And, researchers, the more they research, it's like the more they realize they don't know about all of the powerful ways that music connects with us. So there's not a lot of clear answers. There's some clear answers. I'm going to show you a video here in a moment that unpacks a few of those. One item of note, pun fully intended, is that humans do seem to receive and respond to music in a more complex and meaningful way than any other animal. Studies show that even as newborns, we can discern and process the rhythm of music in a manner that's unique to human cognition. We respond to those patterns of tones. It's a very unique response. They have, I read a recent study where they were kind of comparing like newborns to monkeys and maybe parrots, and just trying to understand like those different nuances of what's going on neurally. Of course, parrots' brains are much, much smaller, but they have that musical component to their, production. And so I think that was part of why they were engaged in that. But anyway, I'm not here to try to explain why we do music. You can theorize about that. I hope you do. I hope you think about why you do it. Why do you like music? What is it? What does it do for you? And there's, of course, tons of research out there too. Just Google the psychology of music, or understanding music, or something like that, and you'll come up with lots and lots of resources. And I'll share a few of those today too. But what I can talk about and I think as a music therapist, this is sort of my expertise area, is how you can harness some of those benefits of music that have been proven both in research and in lived experience. So I want to start just by, I'm not going to talk about like what is exactly going on in the brain, but just sort of generally with the ear, like any sound, music arrives at the ear in the form of sound waves. And again, if you have impairment in any of those processes, our bodies receive sound waves also through vibration. So there are a few different processes going on. It's not just through our ears. But as that signal travels into our brain, using our auditory nerve, it also connects with our motor cortex. And I'll show you a brain here because things get more complicated. The nerve networks in lots of different parts of our brains are engaged in decoding and interpreting all of those different properties of music. So things like the melody, so the notes that are used, the rhythm, how fast or slow those are. Oh, and one thing I didn't say on that previous slide, it's on the slide, but I didn't say it out loud. Music is patterns of sound and silence. It's not just like all the sound. Those patterns of silence that happen in between there, that's really what creates the rhythm. Other elements that are important to look at are like the tonal structure or the harmony. So when there is more than one note or tone at the same time, those harmonic structures, some of them feel really good, some of them make you feel a little uncomfortable, and that's very purposeful sometimes. The texture of the music. So, what are all of those different feelings kind of in the music? Like, what is the span of the notes? What are the different instrumentations? And then the expression, how loud or quiet is it? The tempo, how fast or slow it is. The articulation, is it really smooth and drawn out, or is it very short, quick, little notes? And then also a really important element for a lot of us who listen to music with words are the lyrics. And the lyrics bring a whole other level of engagement of our brains into that music processing. So here, as promised, is a picture of the brain with lots of those different functions that are happening. So you can see where there are just multiple areas of the brain engaged when we are doing something related to music. Again, whether that's listening or playing or moving to it, dancing to it. Our motor cortex, our prefrontal cortex, the amygdala, our emotional parts of the brain, things related to memory, our senses, of course, the auditory cortex, our visual cortex is also often engaged because we might be picturing something or looking at something while we're moving. Many of you may have had the experience of like listening to a piece of music and images come to your mind. That is partially because your visual cortex becomes engaged. That also engages your memory and stuff like that too. And then your cerebellum also related to movement and emotional reaction. So you can see here, there's a ton of stuff going on in our brains when we're connected with music. And some fascinating research from lots of different areas. One thing to note is the connection between music and our emotions. Definitely music has an impact on our emotions. It can be calming, but it can also be activating. It can feel really good. It can feel very soothing or bring a lot of joy. Music can also make us sad. It can make us, feel those deeper griefs that we've experienced in life, and like that can be a way that we express those and experience those emotions too. There is oftentimes a release of dopamine with exposure to music. I was going to say one thing about emotional activation too. So dopamine typically makes you feel good or relaxed, like it's a feel good neurotransmitter in our brains. And the interesting thing about like that range of emotions I was talking about is that anytime music is perceived as very emotional for us individually, that activates our amygdala, which is in the kind of midbrain area, and that's connected with our emotions and our sort of our processing related to memory and emotion. And I think a lot of times, I mean, I work in trauma-informed care. We talk about the amygdala a lot in terms of the stress response, and the amygdala is like looking out for danger. That's only one of its roles. Like there are many, many roles that part of our brain engages in. And the I think amygdala activation has kind of gotten a bad rap as like, we don't want to do that. We don't want to have stress response, but actually we need that stress response. That is actually a part of being a full human, is to have those stress activations. And stress activation is not all bad. Stress activation helps us change. It helps us grow. It helps us move on into new and exciting opportunities. So we need that as part of our experience as a human. And also, we need to experience that wide range of emotions. Again, like those deep, uncomfortable kinds of emotions, like we kind of want to shove them aside. But what happens when we shove them aside is that then we do tend to lose the upper end of our emotional experience too. And so we don't get to have those like great, joyous, pleasurable moments as intensely. So really being able to experience that full range and allowing ourselves that opportunity to dig into the grief that we experience. I mean, this world is hard, right? There's a lot going on, and we have a lot in the world. We have a lot in our own personal lives, and taking time to grieve really is essential to being well. So I could talk about that a lot, but I'm not going to go there because I want to get to some of this other stuff. The other interesting thing about music that they've shown in research is that it promotes neuroplasticity. And some of you probably heard that before. Music has that really unique ability to promote neuroplasticity through the increase of dopamine production. So dopamine not only makes us feel good, but it opens up the opportunity for us to learn new things, for our brains to create new pathways. It helps to kind of smooth out our neural firing in our brain and gives us the opportunity to like make new pathways. We're going to see in this video that we're going to watch here a little bit of Gabby Gifford's story. Some of you may remember that from many years ago now. So we're going to watch this video. It's 12 minutes long, so we're not going to watch the whole thing today. I'm going to skip through a couple of parts, but there's some really cool like brain scan images and stuff like that I think you'll really enjoy. So get comfortable. We're going to watch about 6 minutes or so of this.
These days, we hear music all the time. It wakes us up, it motivates our workouts, keeps us company on our commutes. Doesn't matter what kind of music it is, music itself has the ability to affect our moods and our bodies in all sorts of ways. We nod our heads, we sway, we dance. Music can give us chills, even make us cry.
Music activates every area of the brain that we have so far mapped. In fact, there's no area of the brain that we know about that music doesn't touch in some way.
But what's behind all that? What exactly does music do to us?
To find out, I went through a whole series of tests designed to measure my responses to music. I met some kids whose brains may actually be changing thanks to those hours of learning, practice, and performing. Spoke with a therapist who used music to help former Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords learn to speak again, and got a glimpse inside the brain of a 2-time Grammy-winning artist while he played. All to find out how music affects us. So what's going on when we listen to music? We visited the USC Brain and Creativity Institute, where I had my head examined, literally, to try to figure it out. I'm going to go into this fMRI machine. A tiny tube will surround me. We'll get a baseline reading of my brain, and then I'm going to listen to some music, and we're going to see how my brain responds.
Just close your eyes, relax, and try and get into the music as best you can, okay?
And here's what we saw. These are scans of my brain. The areas in red are where my activity is above average, in blue below average. And as you can see, there's red activity all over my brain, not just in one specific area.
25 years ago, the idea was that language is in the left side of the brain and music is in the right side of the brain. But now that we've got better quality tools, higher resolution neuroimaging and better experimental methods, we've discovered that's not at all right.
How does that play out in different regions of the brain?
When music enters and then gets shuttled off to different parts of the brain, it stops at specialized processing units in auditory cortex. They track loudness and pitch and rhythm and timbre and things like that. There's visual cortex activation when you're reading music as a musician or watching music. Motor cortex when you're tapping your feet, snapping your fingers, clapping your hands. The cerebellum, which mediates the emotional responses. The memory system in the hippocampus, hearing a familiar passage, finding it somewhere in your memory banks. Music is going on in both halves of the brain, the left and the right, the front and the back, the inside and the outside.
So what about a musician's brain?
To play a piece of music engages so many things: motor systems, timing systems, memory systems, hearing systems. There's all sorts of kind of brain activity happening. It's a very robust thing to play music.
I'm Alex Jacob Robertson. I'm Nathan Glenn Robertson.
We asked these 11-year-old musicians to tell us what's going through their minds when they play.
Some of the most important things are having good postures, getting the note right, legato, staccato. For the violin, you need to hold your hand at the right place, and you need to be in tune, and then you also have to have not only the right intonation but the right sound, and then you also need to have great vibrato. There's a lot of things to think about.
Back at USC, researchers have been studying kids who play music over the past 5 years to see how it affects their development. The multitasking areas of their brains understandably lit up, but they've seen other results too.
Music training over the course of 5 years has had benefits in cognitive skills and decision making, also had some benefits in prosocial behavior, and we've also seen changes in the associated brain structures.
Did you hear that? Changes in brain structures. They found that the brains of children who have studied music have stronger connections between the right and left hemispheres, and that can make them better, more creative problem solvers. And then there's emotion. When you hear a piece like this, it's easy to understand why emotions play such a big part in music. This song, by Camille Saint-Saëns, is known as the music for the dying swan in ballet. And while it might move ballerinas to dance, it inspires different reactions in others. Some people get goosebumps, the chills, that weird tingly sensation that you get when a great piece of music just hits you in the right way. It's called frisson, and not everyone gets it. But it turns
And it's in that reappraisal that we tend to think of the pleasurable response as emerging.
And whether you find listening to music so pleasurable you get chills, or you absolutely despise a song, it can produce absolutely fascinating effects in the brain. According to Levitin, music we enjoy triggers the brain's internal opioid system. Yes, opioid system. And just like the opioids that come in pill form, these chemicals make you feel good and help relieve pain. And music you don't like? Well, that releases cortisol, the notorious stress hormone. But that's not even the half of what music can do in the brain.
You turn on the light.
When former Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords was shot in 2011, the left side of her brain was severely damaged, leaving her struggling to speak, a condition called aphasia.
Gabby, are you frustrated?
But to get an idea of just how powerful music's effect on the brain can be, watch this video.
You ready? This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it
That word that she had been struggling to say, light, came easily in song.
Why would she be able to sing a word when she's unable to say it?
What we know about the brain is that the left hemisphere controls language And there are many other parts of the brain that have music access.
Music therapist Megan Morrow's job is to help patients use those other pathways to regain language.
Sometimes I compare it to being in traffic and you can't move any further, but you might need to exit and take a feeder road to get you to your destination. So music is basically like that feeder road to the new destination.
Like a detour. So we know that music can help us relearn things like speech by accessing alternative pathways in the brain, and that learning to play music can help strengthen brain connections. But what about making music?
So for me, music is like, it's the language of humanity. No matter where I go in the world, no matter, man, if I'm playing something, it doesn't matter if someone can't speak the language and they're into it, they're into it.
This is Xavier de Frepeles, better known as Fantastic Negrito. We brought him to UCSF to meet Charles Lim, a neuroscientist who studies musical creativity.
The Duffler's up next.
To understand how Fantastic Negrito's brain works when he's making music, Dr. Lim had him play one of his songs while going through the fMRI. So how did his brain respond? The areas that process sensory and motor skills, along with sounds, lit up. You can see them here in red and yellow. Makes sense, right? But here's the really interesting part. Lim asked him to improvise to see what happens when he's creating something totally original.
It's like Star Wars in my head. It's like Star Wars in my head. I don't like this crazy sound. Makes me feel like I can't get down. Stop.
Now watch what happens to his brain. The areas that were active before, the ones that deal with motor skills and sounds, are even more active. But see how there's way more blue in the front of his brain? That's the prefrontal cortex, and it's associated with effortful planning and conscious self-monitoring. And it's blue because it's less active.
We see that the prefrontal cortex appears to be really shutting down in these moments of high creativity, kind of like letting go of these conscious self-censoring or self-monitoring areas that normally are there to help control our output.
And Lim says it's about more than just letting go.
You view it from perspective of survival. If human beings only could do memorized rote responses, we'd be long gone. And it's not just the thing that happens in clubs and in jazz bars. It's actually maybe the most fundamental form of what it means to be human, to come up with a new idea.
Travel, and we travel, trying to find.
So, music is so much more than notes on a page. It can change the way we think and speak and feel. But is there a limit to what science can tell us about music?
Just when I discover the answer to one thing, 5 new questions pop up that are more interesting than the first, and I've gained an appreciation for how complex the music making and music listening system is. It's not demystified for me at all. It's
All right, he just goes on to say it's more mystifying than ever. So the more, like I said before, the more they learn, the more they realize they don't know about music. So yeah, I think that's a great video. It's on YouTube, so you can go find that and watch the rest of it, the parts I skipped. You can see, what happens when he listens to some music and gets chills, and it's pretty great video. Some other really cool resources that are just on the web. I love that we have this access to technology where we can kind of play around with stuff. So the first link that's on this page, and I did drop the handouts or the slides in the chat, and I can do that again before we wrap up. But this first one is called Your Brain on Music, and you can click on different parts of the brain and see like what happens when you're exposed to music, or what parts of the brain are involved with different parts of music. And then the Kennedy Center has partnered with the National Institute of Health on something called the Sound Health Initiative, and they also have some good resources on the Kennedy Center webpage. You can also find them on the National Institute of Health and also the Sound Health Network web pages related to all this research that's going on related to music and the brain. So really cool stuff happening in the world. We're going to see more and more, and I really encourage you to think about the application of music in lots of different ways. So I want to talk about some of those different ways that we can use music. So music and stress is one area. There's some cool studies. I say that a lot. I love research. There are cool studies out there, especially with music. But in one study, They had participants listen to music through headphones before, during, and immediately after an operation. And and then they had a control group that, had the same care but did not have music. Before surgery, the patients in both groups had similar blood pressure. The average blood pressure and heart rate in both groups rose just before surgery, but the patients who were in silence remained with that higher level of blood pressure throughout the operation. And those who were listening to music, their blood pressure came down really rapidly and stayed down in the recovery room. It was like significantly different, like 35 of the top number on the blood pressure, 35 is it millimeters? I think lower on the top number, and 24 diastolic on the bottom number. And the ones who listen to music also reported that they felt calmer and they felt better during and after the operation. Lots of studies have shown, listening to music lowers blood pressure, lowers heart rate, lowers blood levels of adrenaline, and some other like inflammation promoting elements that are in our blood. So, paying attention to what the music does to you is really important, because different music will function differently for you. Tempo can be really important. Slower, more meditative music tends to induce a more relaxing effect. Faster tempos tend to produce more arousal. But what's also interesting is that even if in some studies, if listeners listen to faster music, immediately after that more upbeat music stopped, their heart rates and blood pressure would come down to like below their usual levels. So that kind of indicates relaxation. Fascinating, right? Cool stuff. Pain relief is another area where music can be really effective. There are some studies showing the effectiveness of music with patients with fibromyalgia. I think another important thing about music and pain relief is that oftentimes our mental well-being is connected with our physical health, and pain in particular. So pain can be something that causes mental distress. Pain can also be a symptom of various mental illness, mental health diagnoses. So I think this is a really important area for us to pay attention to, kind of in this mental health realm. Listening to relaxing music of the patient's choice, of the participant's choice, is really important. If you don't enjoy it, it will not reduce your pain. I can guarantee you. Researchers believe that music eases pain because listening to it triggers opioids, and you heard him talk about that just briefly in the video that I showed. So those natural pain relievers in our bodies, in our nervous systems already, we get kind of an increased release of those when we listen to music that we enjoy and that's relaxing to us. And there are lots of good studies too that show that when we use music in connection with other pain relief methods, that people actually need less of the medication, like pain medication that they're taking when they're listening to music for pain reduction. So really powerful ways to reduce our reliance on medication as ways to regulate our sense of pain. There's also a connection with music and it says on the screen, functional mobility. So you can move more for longer with less pain when you have music. So many of you have probably used music in connection with exercise, and that's one of the key ways that you can exercise for longer with less pain. You can do a little more, you can go a little further, and that's really relevant too for like recovery, rehabilitation, doing physical therapy, that sort of thing. Another area, of course, relevant to our connection here in this time together today with mental health and mood. So music has a role in lifting our moods. Again, lots of research shows that whether we have a mental health diagnosis or chronic pain or other illnesses that are impacting our mental well-being in some way. Music-assisted relaxation improves mood, improves quality of sleep, reduces symptoms of depression. Again, choice is really important, like preferences. What music do you like? Even though, like I said before, some music makes us feel sad or feel, more deeply uncomfortable. Even those types of experiences can be very powerful for us in terms of our mood through catharsis, which is maybe something you have heard before. Really feeling it through that medium of music can be a release of that painful feeling. So that's another area. And then movement, I talked about this just a bit related to exercise, but also, if you're someone who's older or you have aging parents or work with people who are aging, falling is a risk, right? And I think I've been thinking about this a lot over the last few weeks as we've had so much ice around Kansas City. Like it got kind of dangerous out there. Falling is a serious problem, though, even just walking through your house, or if you've had a surgery and you're supposed to be a little more restrictive with your movement. Falling can be really devastating to the recovery. So music has been shown to improve gait and balance. And people who have engaged in some research studies, especially older adults, if they have training to walk and do different movements in time to music, they tend to have better gait and balance than the peers that are doing the same exercises but not doing that with music, and had fewer falls too. So lots of those great programs. There's some similar results related to people with Parkinson's disease. And like I mentioned with exercise before, there's a study that compared rock music, dance music, inspirational music, and no music at all. And that influenced the performance of runners. Many of the athletes thought that the music was helpful, but it didn't tend to increase their endurance necessarily. They just perceived it as helpful. On the other hand, another study similar found that music increased treadmill walking endurance. So it may not be good for those really ambitious runners, but for those of us who just need to get on the treadmill for a little longer, this can be a really helpful idea for us. Okay, I'm going to move on from that because I want to get to some of this other stuff. Music and cognition. This is another really important area. A lot of you have probably heard of the Mozart effect. That was super popular, I guess. Probably 25 years to maybe 30 years ago now. The Mozart effect is not exactly real. Listening to Mozart doesn't automatically make you smarter. It doesn't make your kids smarter. In fact, in that original study where the Mozart effect came from, IQ only increased by a few points and only lasted for a few minutes. So really, just listening to Mozart is not going to have that big of an effect on your intelligence. But there is some indication that music helps organize the firing of our neurons, and particularly in the prefrontal cortex. So you saw some of that in the video. Improvisation in particular, creating something new, engaging in, play related to music, like that really can increase our ability to build those neural connections and can lead to better educational outcomes, can lead to better memory, can lead to better language skills. It can help us to process different things in different parts of our brains better. And so while just listening to Mozart is not going to make your kids smarter, get them engaged in music because it will make them be able to use more of their brains more effectively. And that definitely has some good outcomes for our cognition overall. All right, like I mentioned, not all music is good. And I put good in quotes here on purpose. music does have the potential to cause harm. And it's difficult to define that harm in all contexts because music experiences can have sort of a range of impact. It can impact our communication, it can impact our mood, it can impact our socialization, it can impact our senses in different ways. There's so many factors related to this too, like, is the music live? Is it recorded? Are you just listening, or are you engaged in making music? Do you have previous experience with that music or with the people that are making that music with you or that you're watching? So there's lots of challenges to researching, like where is harm maybe happening in music. But it's under researched, but also really important because particularly for like the field of music therapy, for instance, where we are using music for a very specific purpose of improving health and well-being for a person, meeting treatment-related goals or therapeutic goals through music, helping them to engage in maybe some non-musical things, maybe some musical things. There's a lot of range of what a music therapist does, but we have to know, where can we go wrong? Where can we cause harm? And so that's part of our training as music therapists. There are more and more questions being asked about that because music therapy in many states is becoming licensed. One of the key questions for licensure of a profession is, can it cause harm if we don't regulate it? And so music therapists in particular are really delving more and more into this idea of, where are those boundaries? All that to say, I think personally, if you're using music for yourself, you can kind of know and understand your own limits. But pay attention to things like, hearing loss. If you, I have some of that. I should have paid attention to that maybe a little bit better. If you're playing really loud music in your earphones, or you're playing music. I played in a band. I played bass in a band, and I stood right in front of speakers, and so I have a little hearing loss from that. You have to pay attention to that. That is a form of harm. There are some things like it's called musicogenic epilepsy or seizures. So music can actually trigger a seizure in a person who has that. You sometimes don't know that you have that until it happens. Music can also be connected with substance use. And so that's something to pay attention to as well. There are, if you always listen to a particular type of music while you use a particular substance, that connection in your brain is really strong. So you hear that music and you might have a craving for that substance if you're trying to recover. Music can also have adverse effects on our cognitive functioning. There are some studies that show, especially related to different characteristics of a person, background music can have a negative impact on your attention or communication. Funny little story about that. It's so different for every person. When I was in college, I was really into Linkin Park, and I would listen to Linkin Park like really loud while I was studying, and it did not bother me in the least. I don't know why, but for me, that did not cause an impact. But I have a friend who, though she loved Linkin Park, absolutely could not listen to that because it was so distracting to her that she couldn't focus on what she was doing. And I did find that there were certain tasks that I needed to have either no music at all or, calmer, like music with no lyrics, so that I could really get that task accomplished. And I think we probably all have those examples. There can also be cultural or personal associations with music that can result in re-traumatization, can result in painful memories. And this is one of the reasons that if you are a clinician and you want to use music in your practice, you must be very cautious with it. And I would really strongly encourage you to get a music therapist referral if someone wants to use music to work through some of those experiences. There are also some indicators that some music can worsen the mood of a person. And again, that can be most of the time connected with their personal experiences, their cultural experiences with particular music. So paying attention to that is important. One other area I want to just really quickly address is this idea of problem music. And as a music therapist, I have encountered this more than one time in my career, that an organization I worked with did not want us to use particular music with our, they were children in this setting, because it was problem music. Now, I just want to say there's no research to support that at all. There is no music that's going to make you a delinquent, if you will. I'm going to put that in air quotes too, because I just don't believe that that is true. And there's no research to back that up either. But there has been some interesting uses of music to drive people out of certain areas. They actually use, I read a story about them using Baby Shark as a torture device. Like, I'm not kidding, as a torture device to get people to admit to their involvement with crime. So don't do that. Don't torture people with music. That's not kind. And also be cautious of criticizing people for their music choices. You know, there are so many opportunities for us to say, like, that music is bad. It makes bad people. The people who listen to it are bad. But what they're finding is, like, there's a lot of opportunity within those cultures that develop around that music to promote social connectedness. Actually helps those listeners regulate their negative feelings and promotes identity formation. And that can even provide a lot of protective factors for a person moving through potentially really, like traumatic events in their life, or experiences with mental health challenges, that sort of thing. So it really is all about preferences. There are probably some features in music that make you feel a certain way about certain kinds of music, but it's more than that. Your experience with either that music or similar music that makes it more important. In some cases, you might not even like a particular song, but you like the memories or the feelings that you associate with it. So there's all kinds of complexity in there related to preference. And there have been some interesting developments related to preference for different styles or different elements of music. And Pandora, if any of you are familiar with Pandora, builds on some of that research in helping to pull in music that has similar qualities as the music that you click that you like. So if you've ever used Pandora, that's kind of what's going on behind the scenes with Pandora. All right, so let me spend just a few minutes talking about music. See, I told you I could spend a lot of time going into all of this. I'm going to try to wrap this up here so we have a couple minutes for questions. Again, this idea of musicking, that music is not a thing. Music is an activity or a whole group of activities. And musicking forms a ritual through which all participants can explore and celebrate the relationships that constitute their social identity. So this is kind of this idea of musicking. It's more than just a noun. There are really important elements of relationship when we talk about music. It's the relationship between us and the music, the relationship with ourselves, the relationship we have with other people that we're doing music with. Music has often been used by groups of people to express shared beliefs. It can be just as powerful when we connect musically with people whose beliefs and backgrounds are different than our own. So when we, sing in choirs or we dance in groups, there's a sense of community that can be fostered that really goes beyond the differences that we have, highlights the things that we share. Music has also been used to encourage people to fight against each other. We see this in political realms a lot. And that's important to recognize too. Like, how are we using this really powerful thing to divide? And I really want to push back against that. Let's not use music to divide. We have plenty of things that divide us. Let's use music as much as possible to bring us together, carefully consider power and privilege as we're doing that. ensure that the change we're working toward is for the greater good, that we're really promoting well-being through what we're doing. Okay, I kind of touched on that. I touched on that too, just a little bit. So yeah, those group experiences are really powerful. So performing is one element of musicking that you could potentially engage in. You don't have to be good at it. Remember, I said before, you don't have to be like Renee Fleming on the stage performing for, and winning lots of awards for that. You can sing in the shower. You can sing in your car. That is like performing too. Some of my greatest performances actually have been in my car. Probably some of you too. The shower is great. Usually our bathrooms are really echoey, so you get that resonance. It sounds really good. So don't underestimate the power of your imagined performance space as well. Listening to music, of course, talked about that a lot already, but choose that music really intentionally. Think about what do you want to achieve through listening to music right now? Are you feeling a certain way and you want to feel a different way? Are you feeling a certain way and you really want to express that or feel that so that you can get some relief from it? Do you need music to help you get going? Or do you need music to help you relax? So think about those things that that promote that in yourself. You might journal about that too. Like keep track of what music does those different things for you. There's so many great ways to use music, and you can pair listening with another means of self-expression. Oh, look, it's on my slide. Let's see. I talked about that. Yeah, remember, music with lyrics can be distracting if you need to relax or focus. And oh yes, faster music tends to promote movement as well. So choosing music that you enjoy is more important than going along with what people say is like the most relaxing music in the world. There's no such thing as the most relaxing music in the world. There might be the most relaxing music in the world for you, but there's no like automatic, this is going to do it for everybody. But if you like it, if it functions for what you need, try out new songs, try out new genres of music, because you never know what might really appeal to you. It's a great opportunity to expand your playlist. Listen to the radio station that you've never put on before. And if you don't like it, that's fine, right? Just move on, find something new. Get a random suggestion from Spotify or Pandora and see, how do you like that? If you like it, great. If you don't, no big deal. There's tons of music in the world, right? And like I said, you can pair music with another means of self-expression, because sometimes just listening is good, but try mixing it up a little bit with journaling. Journal while you listen, draw, paint, sculpt something, dance, get your body moving, and sing along. Even if you don't know it, even if you've never heard it before, try to hum along with it, sing along with it. That'll activate different areas of your brain, which if you remember that improvisation, brain scan from before, activates all those different parts of your brain. So try that. And then composing is another way that you can music. It doesn't have, again, you don't have to be great at it, right? Improvise something, or you can write it down. Just sit, if you have a piano or a guitar, just make something. Do something. The act of creation is so powerful for our brains and for our well-being. If you want to try out a place where you can kind of pull different clips that are already created and build your own music, BandLab is a really great web resource to do that. They've got these like pre-recorded little things, and you can put them on the page and try it. And if you like it, great. If you don't, take out the thing you just put in there and put in something else. So that can be a really fun one to play around with. And then just really quick, if you are looking for a music therapist, you can, or if you want to learn more about music therapy, you can go to the Music Therapy Association website, musictherapy.org. Again, you can reach out to me. I talked way too long, but here's my email. And I will drop my slides in the chat one more time. I know we're right at time, but I can hang here for just a moment if anybody does have questions. All right. Thanks so much for the comments in the chat.
Thank you so much, Andrea. That was incredible. I don't know if you see me, but that is okay. Yep. So there I am. Okay. So thank you, Andrea. That was amazing. I learned a ton. I'm sure everyone else learned so much as well. For those of you that are wanting the certificate of attendance is now in the chat. So the link along with the password. And thank you guys so much for your time. I know we have a couple of questions. People have raised their hands. If you want to put it in the chat, you are welcome to. And we'll stick around for a couple of minutes for those that have some questions. Thank you all so much for attending. Have a wonderful rest of your day. If anyone has any questions, you can put it in the chat or put it in the Q&A. We'll stick around for a few minutes.
Yeah, there's so much good research. It's incredible. And like more every day. We're at this like boom of research related to music. I'm just responding to one of the chat comments there. Oh, the YouTube, that was, I think if you look up Wired, hold on. How does music affect your brain? I don't know if I have the link handy. I do. I can put the link in the chat. There you go.
Thank you, everyone.